Hello there, my name is Tristan, and we're going to play some arena here. Um, my majority of my viewing audience has requested a Warlock run, so we're going to play this, and we're going to draft a lot of 3/2s today. So let's see, Mistress of Pain kind of sucks. This has, if you're a Magic player, this basically has life link. But it's only a 1/4, so you don't get a lot of life back out of it. It does like give you a way to get some life back because of your hero power involves paying life to draw extra cards, but it's not a large amount of life gain, so that's pretty bad just because it doesn't do very much. Deathlord is nice and big, but it has a pretty bad drawback, and this is not a card I really want to play in Arena because once they get through it, you just give them a free card from their deck, and sometimes it's huge, so we just really don't want to deal with the drawback on that guy. So we're going to take Questing Adventurer. This guy's not always great, but Warlock can be one of the decks it's good in. We're going to look for a low curve deck if we can because you want to play a bunch of spells after this thing. And if this does go uncontested, then it'll really get carried away because it just gets so big. We're not going to play Wisp. We will play Dark Bomb. This is going to be our pick. 2 mana for 3 damage is just fine. It's a good removal spell, and it kills something. And Acolyte of Pain isn't really worth considering next to Dark Bomb for Warlock because we can just draw an extra card every turn. So we can just pay 2 mana to draw a card. So we would play this, but we're going to take the removal over it. Here we've got another nice removal card in Shadow Bolt. We've got Loot Hoarder and Jeweled Scarab, who are pretty similar because they're both a 1 toughness 2-drop that is going to draw you an extra card. Jeweled Scarab gives you a choice of what card you get, but it's a little smaller. It does give you the card right away, which is nice. It lets you curve out. Loot Hoarder is not necessarily going to give you a 3-drop, and even if it does, you have to get it killed. I think that I'm going to go with the Shadow Bolt here because it's early, and it'll give us, like, for sure something that can just kill a minion. My next pick after that would be Jeweled Scarab, and while this would be nice to take, it's kind of small, and we have a lot of time to fill out our curves still, so we'll just take this removal spell. Here we're going to take the Imp Gang boss. This guy is pretty nuts. 2/4 for 3 is a decent-sized body, and he dishes out extra creatures to you. Whenever he takes damage, you get a 1/1. So you want to deal, 1 damage to this guy at a time if possible. But even if he takes 4, he still, leaves an imp behind. So that puts him a little bit ahead of Murloc Tidehunter because for 1 more mana, you're getting 3 extra toughness on the creature, and you're getting at least 1/1/1 with either of these, maybe more. Dalaran Mage, even though we have 2 burn spells already, is not really ever worth considering. That's not true. He's okay sometimes, but he's pretty bad. So this guy is like, if you have 2 other really bad picks, you can take him, but normally you're going to be pretty sad having this card in your deck. Here our pick's going to be Silverhand Knight. Frigid Snowbolt is better than the Dalaran Mage because he's a lot bigger. He's actually a decent 4-drop, but this is better in something like Mage, and even though we have the burn spells, we don't need the spell damage that badly. Silverhand Knight is a great rate. You get 6 power, 6 toughness for 5 mana. The 2/2 dies a lot of the time, but that's okay. And Corehound is a lot of power, but he dies easily, and he doesn't do anything very special for 7 mana, so we're going to take the mid-game card. These are all pretty bad. Stoneskin Gargoyle and Silverback Patriarch as 1/4s don't do a lot of damage. That seems to be kind of a recurring theme in this in some of our picks here, that these like just do nothing cards are showing up. So we'll take the Dragonling mechanic. It it gives us the best power and toughness for the rate there, but not very exciting. We don't want Mistress of Pain. Fell Cannon is a decent size, and Twilight Drake is too. This is nice in Warlock because it gets +1 health for each card in your hand, and you can use your hero power to fill up your hand. So when we are using our power before we play this thing, it's going to give it a bonus when it comes into play. So our choice is between the Drake and the Fell Cannon. If we had some other mechs, we might consider this because it deals 2 damage to a non-mech minion. We don't have any of those yet, and we really don't want this to like pick off our Squire or like our Dragonling. So I just don't think Fell Cannon's the kind of card we want here. It's not really reliable that it's going to hit something of your opponents, and the 3/5 isn't enough incentive really to take it here, so we'll take the Drake because it'll likely be pretty big in this kind of deck. I don't think we want the 1/7 taunt. This guy doesn't do a whole lot, although the 7 toughness is quite a bit to get through. So we've got a 3-drop and a 4-drop that we can pick from. And neither one of them does anything particularly special in Warlock. We don't have... Warlock doesn't have a lot of like spells that you're going to want to target your own card with. And a lot of the ones that you do only are good if it's a demon. So Dragonkin Sorcerer is pretty much just going to be a 3/5 for us. Razorfen Hunter is, I don't know, it's 3 power and 4 toughness, but I think it's a lot worse than like a Spider Tank because the 1/1 just dies so easily. So it doesn't impact the board as much as something that would just be a 3/4. I think I'm going to go with the Dragonkin here just because it's a little bit bigger, and then we have an equal number of 3 and 4 mana cards right now. But either one of those would be about as good. Here we're just going to take the 2-drop. We don't need Cult Master because we have the power to draw cards, and our curve is pretty like mid-rangey right now. Like we don't even have any 1 or 2 mana creatures yet, so it looks like we're not going to come out super fast unless this deck changes a bit, which it will. We've got like 22 picks left. We don't need the 3-drop so much, and this guy's kind of boring, so we're just going to take this one for curve purposes, just to give us something to get out early. Here we're going to take Coliseum Manager. Light Warden doesn't do anything, and Cold Light Seer doesn't do anything, and a 2/5 for 3 is a pretty good rate. And this Inspire is interesting. Some of the gameplay decisions you get around this, because like you can, if your Coliseum Manager gets damaged a little bit, then you can bring it back to your hand and replay it. And a 2/5 for 3 is pretty big. You also don't always want to use your power. Like you don't really want to use it in the early game because you want to be developing your board. So Coliseum Manager, while it looks like it has a drawback, it's actually just a really good card. You just have to play in a way that makes it good, which isn't hard because that's probably what you'd want to be doing anyway. So we're happy with that. That was really, we didn't need to talk much about the pick. I just wanted to discuss what the card does and how we want to play it. We don't want Dancing Swords because we don't want to give our opponent a card for that. It's just a pretty big drawback, even though you're getting a good rate on the creature. Fearsome Doomguard is, I think, a pretty nice card. It gives us some top end, and it looks like we're going to be a deck that's a little bit slow. So I think I'm going to take the Doomguard just because it is a good finisher. It gives us something in the high end of the curve to have, and 8 toughness is kind of a lot. This is a pretty hard card to kill. Like it survives being fireballed and then mage powered, which I think is a pretty big deal. There's not, I mean, there are some other things that do 7, but that's the big like combo of cards that would do 7 damage to something, and this guy survives that. So I think he's a little better than a 7/7 in some situations. And Drain Life is a fine card, but it doesn't do a lot of damage, and hopefully we won't be in a position where the life gain really matters, so we're going to go with this big guy instead. Here we're going to definitely take Dark Iron Dwarf. Thralmar Farseer has the same problem as a lot of Wind Fury cards, which is that he just gets attacked and dies. So it's like you play this and you've got a 2/3 for 3, but then they just kill it with something and you never get the bonus of the Wind Fury to do the double attack. And Curse of Rapham is you spend 2 mana and then like your opponent has to spend 2 mana at some point to get rid of the cursed card in their hand. And it's like if you give up a turn and then your opponent has to mess up their curve out at some point. I've seen it do good things, but it's no Dark Iron Dwarf. Like it's an interesting card, but it doesn't always do that much. It's not completely bad, but it's pretty bad. And Dark Iron Dwarf is just an all-star. This guy's great because he makes one of your smaller creatures trade up, so we're happy to have him. Succubus is pretty bad because you have to discard an extra card from your hand, and getting a 4/3 for 2 isn't. You don't want to put 2 cards into you don't want to invest 2 cards into having a 4/3 even if you get it for 2 mana. So our choice is between Hungry Dragon and Stranglethorn Tiger. Stranglethorn Tiger is nice because the stealth lets it hit for sure the next turn. It's going to be pretty hard to kill this. Like, it survives Flame Strike, so you're usually going to get your hit in with this at least once. And a Hungry Dragon's pretty huge. I mean, he's 1 mana less, and he's 1 more toughness, with the drawback that you just have to manage to deal with a 1-cost minion somehow. So I think we should be able to do that pretty well. With this deck, it's a little easier if you have a class that can do damage, though. And, I'm actually going to take the Tiger here. We don't have a lot of 5-drops yet, and sometimes if you're not curving out very well, you don't really have a good place to play the Hungry Dragon because you just have to risk adding to your opponent's board. Like, you really want to have board control, sort of, when you play this, and you want to be able to, like, kill one of their things after you play this. And I could see situations where we wouldn't be able to do that because some of our smaller cards are kind of weak here. So we'll go with the 5-drop. I think it's a safer pick. Here we're just going to take Soulfire. These cards both don't do anything, and this is a lot of damage. You can negate the drawback on this of discarding a card if it's the last card in your hand. So if you have the option to, you should play out the rest of your hand and then cast Soulfire, and then you could even draw another card with your power. Let's see. So Argent Horse Rider is the best card here. How many 3s do we have already? We've only got 1 2-mana creature, which makes me want the Puddle Stomper. We've got 1, 2, 3 3-mana creatures. Argent Horse Rider is definitely the best card here, but I think I'm actually going to take the Puddle Stomper because I don't want to end up in a position where we have no 2-drops. So we're going to give up a little power to make our curve better here. But the Horse Rider is a very nice one. And here we're going to take Dark Peddler. I think Dark Peddler is probably about as good as Mechanical Yeti. These are both great cards because the Yeti is the mech part can be relevant, but this or the Chillwind Yeti are both just like a 4/5 or 5 or 4/5 for 4 is a pretty decent rate. This guy is only a 2/2, so he's smaller than like either of our other 2-drops, but he gives you a card back in your hand. So this is a lot like Jeweled Scarab in that it helps you curve out really well. So we're gonna go with him because we want the low curve. But Mechanical Yeti is a very nice card also. Here we probably don't want the Sentinel. It's pretty bad. I don't think I want a second Soulfire. Our choice is between these 2 burn spells, and I'm just going to take the Dark Bomb because I don't want to have a bunch of Soulfires in our hand all the time. I think having 1 in your deck is probably enough most of the time. These are all... So, we're never healing anything. So Light Warden's just a 1/2. We're probably not going to have 6 other minions, so Reliquary Seeker's just a 1/1. So I guess we're taking Demon Wrath. It's a decent card. This is better against non-Warlocks, obviously, because Warlocks are likely to have demons. But we should be able to play around this a little bit. You can use this to like finish something off, or you can like just not play your cards and then Demon Wrath and damage your opponent's stuff. So that's fine, I think. Here we've got one of our 3/2s. These are all actually pretty nice cards. What do we want here? This is actually a pretty tough pick. So the Flame Imp is nice because it gives you a really aggressive start. Like, you take 3 damage, but you don't mind that because you're getting a 3/2 on turn 1, which is pretty huge. Dread Infernal is a fine card to come down like later in the game. When this comes out, it can oftentimes like finish off a lot of these small creatures like the Puddle Stompers and stuff, or even a larger creature that's taken some damage already. So the 1 damage to everything is a pretty nice thing to get. And we don't have any 6-mana cards yet, so that would be nice. This guy, I think we'll take the... No, the Tomb Spider would be good too, because it's a versatile card. You can play it on turn 4, or you can play it later and play the Beast in the same turn. But I think we're going to go Flame It, because it gives us a lower curve. Irius Statue's unplayable. Mana Wraith is pretty bad, especially in our deck, I think, because we want to play, like, a lot of our cards are 4 mana and 5. So I don't think this is something we're really going to consider. So we'll take Emperor Cobra. He's going to trade with pretty much anything, so that's a fine card to have. Here we're going to take Chow, because the Zombie Chow is amazing. Gadget's End Jouster is like the card that wants to grow up to be Zombie Chow. He is a 2/3 for 1 sometimes. But He's actually, so this is an interesting card because if you have a high curve deck, he's more likely to be a 2/3. Like if you're a slower deck with a high curve, you're going to win the jousts more against a low curve aggressive deck. But he's inconsistent, and that's just not something we want. The Tiger's a fine man also, but we've already got one, and we pretty much should take Chow over everything. So we're going to do that. Here, we want the Fairy Dragon. It's just a good curve filler. It has the bonus of being untargetable, so your opponent can't like use a removal spell on it. They can kill it with a weapon. And Argent Squire has some of that. Is similar because it's hard to kill. It's got Divine Shield, so they have to hit it with two things. But it's only a 1/1, and tournament attendee is pretty bad. It's just like it doesn't really do anything. It's too small to make an impact, which Argent Squire kind of is also. So we're happy with Fairy Dragon here. It's having these 2 1-drop like nice creatures here is pretty good for us because it gives us a good chance of having a 1 mana card, which is also a good reason to have like the Fairy Dragon there because now we've got 4 2-drop creatures that we're going to be happy with in a couple of these. So we've got a pretty good chance of curving out here. And for this pick, we're going to take Haunted Creeper. It's kind of like a 2-mana 3/4, although the pieces all come separately. So sometimes it's not going to work out for you, but other times it's really good. It also gives you kind of insurance against something like Flame Strike or another sweeper, because when this dies, you get 2 1/1s after that. So if they kill all your stuff at once, you get a couple 1/1s back, and you have something to start affecting the board with. And we've got a lot of burn already, so the Creeper's just going to be better for us than either one of these, because we've already got a lot of this stuff in the deck. Here I think we're going to take the Dread Infernal. We don't need another Soulfire, and Tournament Medic is kind of cute with Warlock, because you lose 2 life, but then you gain it back. So it's like it makes your hero power only cost mana, but that's not enough of a reason to play this 1/8. He's not unplayable. Like, I don't mind having Tournament Medic in our deck, but we'd rather have something that impacts the board in a significant way. And Dread Infernal is really a staple card for this class, so he definitely affects the board. Summoning Portal is not really something that I like to do, although I've lost to people who've played this more times than I'd like to admit. So this is nice in Warlock because it makes your cards cheaper, and you can like keep filling your hand to fuel this. So as when you're drawing 2 cards a turn with your power, you're gonna probably be able to play both of them if they're minions, because they cost 2 less. So if the Summoning Portal doesn't get killed, it does give you a lot of power, but it's also a 0/4 for 4. So they should have a way to kill it. Just sometimes your opponent like stalls out and you play a summoning. Well, sometimes you stall out and your opponent plays a Summoning Portal, because it's always somebody else who does this, because you shouldn't play Summoning Portal. But like sometimes you just stall out and you lose to this. It happens. And it's embarrassing when it does. We don't have any dragons, so Blackwing Technician isn't really a card for us, and Chillwind Yeti is just great. So there's little question of like whether we would take the Yeti here. I just wanted to talk about Summoning Portal a little bit and how like it might look good sometimes, but you shouldn't play it because it sucks, because it's a 0/4. Okay. Let's see. We've got Baby Chow. We've got a 3/3 and a 2/4 for 3. So these are our options. The Wind Fear on this guy can be nice. He can do a lot of damage. But he also just pretty much trades with anything. And the Imp Gang Boss is just a sweet card because it leaves bodies behind after it trades off. So we're happy with that. Having double Imp Gang Boss is pretty sick. Voidcaller is a nice card. Let's see how many demons we have. We got 1. We got 2, 3 there. So we only have 5 other demons in the deck, but a couple of them are pretty big. Like, and one of them has a drawback that we'd be happy to negate. So Voidcaller, do we want the Voidcaller? We've also got Demon Wrath, which we can have Voidcaller out and avoid it. So I'm trying to decide if getting potentially the extra card in play from Voidcaller is worth having -1/-1, because we could just take the Yeti, who's just gonna be bigger. You I actually want to go with the Void Caller here. I want the Yeti also. They're both really nice cards. Um, Man, I feel like it's gonna be pretty embarrassing when I have one or the other of these, and like it's a situation where the one that I didn't take is gonna be better. We've only got 3 picks left after this to get demons, so is 5 other demons enough to take the Void Caller? I'm gonna go with the Yeti. I think it's just bigger, and I think this is a safer pick. Although this card can be really high upside sometimes. So we've got like, yeah, we've got 2 different Yetis in the deck. I guess we didn't take the mechanical one, so yeah, we're pretty happy to have those. They're a really solid body. These are all kind of poopy cards. I think we'll go with the Lord of the Arena because it gives us a higher cost card, and we don't really need the card drawing from this. And let's see, we've got one more pick after this. Power Overwhelming is actually one of the cards that Warlock has that can pump our Dragonkin Sorcerer that we've already got, but it kills it. It dies horribly at the end of the turn. So while we could Power Overwhelming this guy and get like an extra +1/+1, this is like it's not really the kind of thing we would want to pump a Dragonkin Sorcerer. So we don't want another one of these. And the Power Overwhelming is actually not bad. It's a nice like tempo play because it can get you through a bigger card. And actually, I think we're gonna take it here because it gives us something that we can affect the board really fast with. Although we do have some burn that can do that as well, but we don't have anything that really cares about dying. We've got this guy has Death Rattle. Um, we could have taken the Void Caller, who cares about dying, but I think we're all right without it. And yeah, we don't really have any other Death Rattles here, do we? Nope. But I think we'll still take it. Jeweled Scarab is a sweet card. I would be happy playing this, but we're gonna take this thing because it's fast. Uh, ugh. These are all pretty crappy. We don't have a good way to trigger Dragon Egg. We don't have a way to activate Ancient Watcher. So these are both out. So I guess we're taking Gnomish Experimenter. He does draw you. Basically, you should just think of this as a 3/3 that puts a 1/1 for 1 in your hand. Sometimes it draws a spell. It's best if it draws, like, a burn spell, because then you just have drawn that along with it. And the chicken isn't really bad. Like, sometimes you transform, like, a good card into a chicken, which we don't really have any super good card. Like, I think maybe the Imp Gang boss or the Dark Iron Dwarf are some of the better cards in our deck. And like, you shouldn't be sad though about transforming one of your like good minions into a chicken because, like, if that card was on the bottom of your deck, you would never have drawn it anyway. So you shouldn't be like, oh, it's bad because it made my good card bad. It's like, well, what if you never drew that? It is just putting an extra card in your hand. So you shouldn't like look at that as a downside. It's just it gives you a different creature. So this deck is not super exciting, but I think it's solid, and we've got Zombie Chow. So really, how could we possibly lose? Um, we've got Zombie Chow. We've got double Imp Gang boss. We've got like Yeti and Dark Iron Dwarf. We've got the Tiger and the Drake, and we've got Silverhand Knight. So we have a lot of good like late game solid cards. We should be able to have a really decent curve out with this deck, and we can use our hero power to keep the cards flowing. So while none of this is terribly exciting, it's all like on a pretty steady, decent power level. One of our worst cards in the deck is, I think, that Dragonkin Sorcerer, but we didn't have any other good options compared to this. I don't think Dragonling mechanic is that great either, but yeah, we've got some good solid stuff. We've got some burn, and we've got inherent card advantage because of our class. So I think we should do all right with this one. So I'll be right back with some games.